and I became obsessed with making basketball trick shot videos where I would invite my
Cool.
friends over to my house, we'd set up my little hoop, and we'd try the most absurd trick shot. We'd throw a basketball over the house and try to make it. We'd spend all day just setting up the camera and trying to capture this 1 in 1,000 shot. And that has little to do with filmmaking. The only thing that I can say is that it was so thrilling to me to capture a moment that felt like a lightning in a bottle, like it's never gonna
Right.
happen again. Here's this special thing that we all shared in, that we all witnessed, and here it is preserved forever. And I think at the time it was like a silly thing I did, but that feeling I think became the foundation of what I love about films and documentaries specifically, is that's what it's about for me. It's here we are sharing in this space with people I really care about, both the people on screen, the people behind the camera. Like when we share a moment that feels like it's a lightning in a bottle, like it might never happen again. This is what life is
Right.
about. When we share that all together and it's captured on the camera, it's like the most majestic, magical, stars aligning feeling. And if I can just have one of those in a film, like if I make a film and one of those moments where everything just lines up happens, then I feel like I succeeded.
Good day, filmmaker Charles Frank. Charles, how are you on this fine September day?
Doing great. How are you?
I am wonderful. I'm thrilled you're here. When I was talking to my wife yesterday, I told her I had a couple recordings today. She was like, "Oh, who are you talking to?" And I said, "A filmmaker." And she's okay, smart ass. That really helps. But then I relayed to her a little bit about some of the things we've been talking about, just as we've been scheduling this, just the challenges of fatherhood. You're actually making a new film, tentatively titled Fatherhood. I know some of your previous films have touched upon like your family. So obviously the family portion is very important to you. How is that viewed upon your work? Like we know like indie films love their grind, work hard culture, and I'm certainly guilty of promoting that too. But is there a place for families? Do you feel like there's a place for families in this business as well? Hey, I need to concentrate on my family now. Is that something that you've found that has been acceptable?
Yeah, I'd say early in my career, very much was fully committed to filmmaking. My whole life revolved around
Yeah.
filmmaking. At times, I felt like my personality was only filmmaker. That's all I was, that's all I did. And I remembered there was a certain point where I realized like the films I was making felt really like limited and didn't really expand upon it. I didn't feel like I had something valuable to say because so much of my life was consumed by the process of making films. I did realize at a certain point that having a full life, having a partner, thinking about things like saving for a house and building a family, like these things started coming into my consciousness. And I just feel like I'm just in an incredibly rare and fortunate situation where I found an amazing business partner, Andrew Hutchison, and we started this production company together that has really centered around this idea of creating sustainable careers for filmmakers
That's
because it
awesome.
is an industry that is so difficult to have a healthy, balanced lifestyle. And he and I have really tried to champion that and support each other in that process. And yeah, for me, being able to help build this company, support other filmmakers, and then also work on commercials, like hone my craft on commercials and get to express pieces of myself in that, and then be able to also be supported in making passion films and original work. It's just like an incredibly rare, and then also have time to start a family, and
Right.
it's an incredibly rare situation, and I think it's possible, but not without surrounding yourself with people that believe in this dream and also believe in the importance of a balanced life. So that's our ongoing mission.
That's so incredible, Charles, and I'm so glad that you're putting that out there because I think it is tough. You hear so many people I talk with on the podcast, and I'm guilty, like I said, of promoting it. "Oh, you're doing nothing else. How do you have time for sleep?" And that's like the culture, and I get that. I That's fine, but there should be a place for something else if that's what you wanna pursue. as well, and I'm excited to talk with you about that. It looks like you're working, like I said, on a project called Fatherhood. But let's start from the beginning. Like, how did you get started in filmmaking? Like, you've had just such a wild and unique indie film career. How did it get started?
I've been interested in making films since I was really little. My first introduction to the filmmaking process was a friend of mine who had a little point and shoot camera and one of those like clamshell Mac. His mom had like one of those clamshell colorful MacBooks from the
Right.
early 2000s, and I would go over to his house for the play date, and we would make a film during the 3 hours that we were there, and then by the time my parents came to pick me up, we'd do a screening of the film that we made. It's like a little miniature film
Oh,
festival. And
that's
yeah, so he introduced me. His name's Jacob Douglas. I haven't actually talked to him in a long time.
okay.
Hope that for some reason
Yeah,
he sees
hopefully he's
this.
making,
Yeah.
I hope he's making film.
But he made like, little stop motion films, and we made like a mock commercial back then for a stapler. That is somewhere on YouTube. I'm not going to tell you where it is. But that was like my first like filmmaking. But then weirdly, another aspect of it was like I was really into sports growing up. I played a lot of sports, and I became obsessed with making basketball trick shot videos where I would invite my
Cool.
friends over to my house. We'd set up my little hoop and we'd try the most absurd trick shot. We'd throw a basketball over the house and try to make it. We'd spend all day just setting up the camera and trying to capture this 1 in 1,000 shot. And that has little to do with filmmaking. The only thing that I can say is that it was so thrilling to me to capture a moment that felt like a lightning in a bottle, like it's never going to
Right,
happen again. Here's this special thing that we all shared in, that we all witnessed, and here it is preserved forever. And I think at the time it was like a silly thing I did, but that feeling I think became the foundation of what I love about films and documentaries specifically, is that's what it's about for me. It's here we are sharing in this space with people I really care about, both the people on screen and the people behind the camera. Like when we share a moment that feels like it's a lightning in a bottle, like it might never happen again. This is what life is
right,
about. When we share that all together and it's captured on the camera, it's like the most majestic, magical, stars aligning feeling. And if I can just have one of those in a film, like if I make a film and one of those moments where everything just lines up happens, then I feel like I succeeded. So I'm always just trying to like create those moments and make people feel comfortable enough to share that with us and to be there for it. So that's,
wow.
yeah, that's where I started. And that's how it still relates, I think, to what I'm doing now.
That's so beautifully said. So, did you go to school for film?
I did not. So
Okay,
after high
interesting.
school, I got into NYU and I decided to defer a year to do an internship. That internship did not work out. It was a really bad experience, but I quit after 3 months because I was having a horrible time feeling really disposable, and that's when I called up my business partner, Andrew, and I knew he was trying to start a production company, and he had a lot going for him, and he's a bit older than me, and I was like, "Man, I'm having the worst summer in this gap year between NYU, and what are you up to?" And he's, "Man, do you wanna try directing commercials?" And I was like, "Alright, yeah."
Why
So,
not? Yeah.
yeah, why not? It's better than what I'm doing, so I moved back east, and he is just the most, like, organized and motivating and supportive person in the world, and he was just like, "Let's figure out how we can make a commercial together." So we found these online video contests where you could submit a brief, like a pitch for an open brief for a brand. We did that. We ended up winning. We made a commercial together for Hasbro board games, and that ended up broadcasting nationally that year, and that piece ended up becoming the foundation of our partnership and building a production company together that does commercials and helps support independent films, sustainable careers, or whatever. And so by the end of that gap year, we had accomplished a lot together. And I just decided to withdraw from college, much to my parents' dismay. And he and I just from that point on continued building this thing together. I did not have a traditional education through college, but I think with Andrew, with his company, just being on the field, I've learned quite a bit. Of course, there's things I feel like I missed out on not having been to film school.
But don't you feel like the market spoke to you? Like, you would have made a different decision if you hadn't made any of made that thing with Hasbro or been able to have any clients. If you had 0 business, would be like, "I have to go to film school." And this is no knock against film school, But the way you were talking made me think, okay, I graduate from NYU, one of the best film schools. So you're already like ahead of the game, but you still have literally hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt unless your parents are like, how does
Yeah.
a new film student even begin to like, you're not going to be able to pay for that, right? Like, how do you even pay for that?
Yeah,
Dodge
it's
your bullet.
totally, yeah. Yeah, I have tons of friends that went to film school, are incredibly
Yeah,
successful, and, have managed to pay off their student debts through filmmaking, and, like, it's possible for sure, but I would say the time that you're in college, and this is the part that I feel like I missed out on, is that the
yeah,
time that you're in college, I think, is so critical to building your portfolio, building your
right.
style, your taste, figuring out what you wanna specialize in, building
Yeah,
connections, and, like, reaching out to production companies locally, seeing how you could support, what you can get involved with outside of school. We have a lot of students that reach out to us about projects, and if it's good, we always consider
right,
them, and so it's that time while you're in school is probably I can't really speak from experience, so I might not be the best person to ask, but it feels like it's
right.
equal parts learning, but also getting out there and working on stuff and having this free space to figure out what you're about. And for me,
Yeah,
a lot of me figuring out my style and taste happened like on the job. And so there was a lot of
yeah,
pressure to perform and deliver to a client when I still felt like I was figuring out what my voice was. And if it weren't for some of my early films that Andrew again help support me in, where it wasn't for a client and it was just like a free space to try some stuff out,
yeah,
I don't think I would have been able to. I would have really gotten stuck in the loop of doing
right.
commercials and not really having my own voice in the indie film world. But yeah, in terms of coming out of school and finding a path in film, there's so many ways to do it. It's not there isn't the double-edged sword is that there's like a million ways that you can become
Right,
successful, but it's also incredibly saturated. And
exactly.
so it's a hard thing to stand out, but it's also like you can carve your path. You can find unique ways to make it work in this industry for sure. And our path was very unconventional and unorthodox, and we forged our way and found that what worked for us. But definitely, we had a mentor early on that we brought on, a consultant that had worked at a was the head of production at a larger production company, and he came on to
Smart.
help us figure out, like, how does this industry work? What are the
Mhm.
rules that exist now? And then how can we do things differently or punch above our weight class or exist in this space with the strengths that we have? And that was incredibly valuable. So, mentors, getting work done, defining your style, reaching out, networking, like, these are all things that help, but I can't say for sure how to
Right.
do it. Yeah.
Now I see, like, the Open Letter to Mom film really gives me perspective now because you really took a chance on yourself, Charles. Like, you were you rolled that roulette wheel on, like, red, and you were like, "Man, this better work." So that's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, I was definitely that's part of the to bring it back to what we were talking about earlier, that's part of the grind
Yeah,
culture that
right,
was very much ingrained in me from the moment I started, because I felt like I had a lot to prove and that I was taking a huge risk and a big gamble
right.
skipping school, and my parents weren't super happy,
I imagine, yeah,
and so I felt like I had a lot to prove, so I really put my
yeah,
head down. And that film speaks to that. And I think part of the reason I became really distant from my family at that time was because I was so focused on making
so
sure that
good.
this thing worked out. So yeah.
I'm so glad it did. So, looking at your career, I think you've hit, like, every sort of major milestone for an indie filmmaker to hit. Like, you've had things on New York Times, New Yorker, 10 Vimeo staff picks. Have do they have is it like the Saturday Night Live hosting thing where they have, like, a special club? Once you hit certain numbers, are there, like, anybody tracking, like, how many Vimeo but 10 seems like a lot, Charles.
Yeah. I not that I know of, but
Like, we're in, like, the 15 club now or something?
yeah, not that I know of, but
But is there, like, one of those things that you think stands out to you as moving the needle further than others? Or is it just a collective thing, like, you were just given more opportunities and things just expanded? There's no one thing that you think put you ahead of the game more than any other?
yeah. Okay, so I think my first Vimeo staff pick was somewhere around 2011 or 2012, something like that. And that was a huge deal for me,
Yeah,
for my career. thousands and thousands of people saw that film, and it really raised my profile. And even in the commercial realm, like I knew a lot of creative directors that were watching Vimeo staff picks and keeping tabs on interesting new filmmakers, and people were aware of my work in the commercial realm because of those early staff picks. And it gave me some confidence and belief in myself that I wasn't totally crazy. Maybe there's something here. And so those were really valuable. And like a lot of, I mean, our company was really built on some of those early staff picks. Like Junk Mail got millions of views and was really widely seen, and that just helped us and helped. And again, when we started the company, I was the only director. So selling the selling us was really making sure we could sell my work. And luckily we expanded and brought on other people that are a lot better than me and do more interesting things. And we offer a lot of varied filmmaking styles now. But in the early days, it was like what I was doing was what we were selling. So when a film of mine did well, it meant the company was getting some press and attention as well. So that was extremely valuable. And then I think and they continue to be really valuable. And eyeballs on a film is
Yeah,
so hard. Even
right.
if you get into the best film festivals, it's an
Yep,
amazing feather in your cap, and it's an awesome experience in person. And I love going to festivals, but 100,000 people online watching a film
right.
compared to maybe 2
Couple 100.
screenings, a couple 100,
Yeah,
that's a big deal. They both have their place. I'm not saying one's more valuable than the other, but
yeah,
it is important, and all of it's important. And like you were saying, it's like I now think I view it as this body of work, and every accomplishment feels like it's contributing to this body. And I just had my first film, Shanti Rides Shotgun, premiere at South by Southwest, and they hosted this really cool like filmmaker brunch luncheon thing, and Richard Linklater was there, and he like
oh,
talked to
cool.
us. And I think that he said to all of us, and this really resonated, and I think about it all the time, was like filmmakers tend to think about their next project as the most
Yep,
critical one. This is the important one. This is going to be the thing that makes or break my career. And that pressure that filmmakers put on themselves makes them make worse stuff because you're like walking on eggshells, like scared that about every decision. And you're not just there's something beautiful about being careless and confident and just like trying
exactly.
shit out. And so I think he said this. I don't want to be wrong about this, but he said he thinks about it as contributing to a body of work. And so when you're making something, some of it's going to be shit, some of it's going to be great, but it's all about this collective body of work. So it
Yeah,
takes the pressure off like your next thing needing to be your masterpiece. It might be, it might also be horrible, and that's okay.
yeah.
It's all a part of this body of work. And so I love that. I've made so many films that I'm like, man, that kind of sucked, but I'm glad I made it. Like, I'm glad I went
Right.
through it. And they ended up in sometimes people will tell me, "Oh, that was your favorite film of mine." I'm like, "What? That one? That one sucks." But they saw something in it and they loved it. And so like there's value in everything that you make, whether it's a learning experience or maybe to somebody else. Anyway, I've been rambling a while.
No, I love that answer, and I think that's so important. So, you made a few shorts, and then you made a documentary feature, Somewhere with No Bridges, a 57-minute runtime. It felt fast, which is amazing. So, when people sit down and watch that, I think it's available on Apple, Vimeo. You can watch it. What were you trying to do with that film?
That was a really personal story about a relative of mine who went missing at sea, and some of my early memories as a child, and also my relationship to my dad. And that was one of those situations where I had the luxury of time and like the tiniest crew imaginable. It's just me and the DP, Jeff Melanson, who also wrote all the music while we were shooting the film. So it
Wow.
was just the two of us, that and then I was able to stay at my aunt's house on Martha's Vineyard where we were filming. So the cost of making it was very low, and we had the luxury of time. And I didn't have a lot of expectations, or I didn't have a lot of fear of this has to be my next great piece of work. I just had a feeling that this is something I needed to make and needed to say. And I was chasing like a ghost and like finding what the film was on the fly. And the process of making it is something Jeff and I still talk about and dream about, as like that was one of the best experiences of our lives making a movie. And so to the point I was just making, I think I'm so proud of that film and I'm proud of it because of what I was able to express and the feeling of it and what it opened up for Jeff and what he was able to accomplish. And but it's like one of the worst performing films I've ever made. Like,
Oh,
it
really?
yeah, like, it didn't do well at festivals. It, like, has a really small audience, and I am
Wow.
bummed about that. I but at the same time, I'm, like, so proud of it, and I'm so happy I made it, and it's really meaningful to me and will always be really meaningful to me, and that's a very privileged position to be able to make a film that flops,
Right.
but still be able to, like, be about it. 'Cause and I'll always be proud of it, and I'll always love it, but, yeah, it just never caught, and that might be the runtime. We heard that a lot from distributors that it's a hard runtime. We heard from a lot of programmers it's hard to program because it's not a traditional length, it's like a mid-length film. It's
Wait, so
also like
you feel, Charles, that you might have had points taken off for a short I feel like so many documentaries I watch are glued to that 90 minutes, and they have to put 90 minutes in, and they put in fluff, and I'm okay, you're really stretching it here. Do you
yeah,
feel like that could people may have taken points
it
off for
we heard it did. It's not
okay.
even just a feeling, like, we heard direct feedback that
Oh,
that was
that's so horrible.
a tough length to program. So, yeah, it had a hard time picking up steam,
Oh,
and then we got a New York Times review on it, which was totally unexpected, and New York Times really did not like it. And so that was like a it felt I think I was really sensitive because it's so personal, so that one
yeah,
hurt, and everyone dreams of having the New York Times review their film, and
right.
I it was a big milestone for me. I've never had a New York Times like, a New York Times critic review my film, and then I read it, I was like, "Oh, this they hate it, it sucks." They just didn't they said something like it's like an unfocused essay or something like that, and I was like, "Oh, that hurts." But they made some fair points. There are things about it when I look back on it now, I'm like, "Ooh, that's a little cringy," or that is a little vague and maybe, yeah, a little pretentious, but still, I feel proud of what we tried to do and what it meant to me and all that, but yeah.
Absolutely, and as a little bit aside, let's talk film criticism. So, I don't know if you noticed, but The New Yorker did some article, I haven't read the article yet, on music criticism, but David Remnick, the editor, did, like, this little thing about, "Are we being too soft?" And
Oh,
I
yeah.
just it blew my mind because, like, all I read are like, I feel like the critic wants to do a takedown of an indie film. There was a film called Pools that came out, and I haven't seen that, but the critic eviscerated the film. He made it sound like the guy shouldn't even ever own a camera again. I feel like critics want to like especially if the Rotten Tomatoes score is low, it feels like there's a pile on effect where it's like I need to show how great of an author I am by cutting this guy's soul out. Yes, there may have been fair points, but do you ever read criticism and it's did you watch the same movie? Or you like just trying to bash it? What are your thoughts on like critics?
I don't know, I don't think I have enough experience with it to be a good have a good opinion on it because that's what my one experience really my one
Right.
experience is really the New York Times review. No, I mean, we did get other really beautiful reviews from
Yeah.
smaller publications and critics, and those meant a lot, and that was really nice. But then, yeah, for me, like the big one, they didn't love it, and that hurt.
Yeah.
I can't say definitively. I still see a lot of value in having critics look at work and put their opinion
Right.
out into the world and help frame what a piece of work could be and is to them. Sometimes I do agree that especially for indie filmmakers that they were like, no, like
Right.
we're getting paid and they work
Max their
so
credit
yeah,
card.
max their
Yeah.
credit card. Like it would be nice if some of that was taken into account. One thing we talk about all the time is that at the end of the day, nobody knows or will know what went into a moment.
Right. Yeah.
And you can't expect people to judge something based on what went into it. You can't they're gonna look at it for what it is, and it's a tough thing. It's hard to watch an indie filmmaker get bashed, and I would hope that it's not what you were saying, that it's just wanting to pile on to the negativity, and maybe that is part of it, but I also understand that, like, when you go out and make something, nobody's gonna consider how hard that shot was to get or what you went through to make it. And so that is something I think about. If and that's actually something that comes up in I work a lot with my wife, Nico Frank, who's an editor, documentary editor, and it's hard because when she's cutting moments out that I have a whole story in my mind about, ah, you have no idea what we went through to get that. That took months of us like waiting for this moment. And she just pulls it out. And I'm like, what the hell? And she is like constantly reminding me, like, nobody's going to know that. That
Right.
moment sucked. It didn't make sense for the film, or it doesn't push the story forward. Nobody cares that you did X, Y, and Z to get it if it doesn't make the film better. And it's a tough pill to swallow, but it is true. So, anyway, yeah,
And she helped you be ruthless with the runtime. I love the runtime. I think the film was tight. It didn't feel like there were a lot of wasted moments. I enjoyed the voiceovers. Definitely go check out the film. Did she help you with that? Make sure is she ruthless on
absolutely.
those kinda edits? Yeah.
Absolutely brutal, just
Yeah.
ruthless, just like she is an amazing storyteller, always knows exactly what you need to get the story to be told and provides honestly, when we get positive reviews about the film, it's almost always about the pace of the film. It's about the edit, it's about the flow, it's about the narrative structure. And so she knows exactly what is unnecessary. And it always takes me like a day. I'll be like, you're just wrong. I'll get mad. I'll be like, you're wrong. That moment it was our favorite moment. There's no way that doesn't. And then it'll take me a day. I'll be like, okay, you're right. That was not necessary. I'm gonna keep it on a drive. I'm gonna look at it from time to time, but it will not make this film better. You are correct.
That's fantastic. Your like you mentioned, your recent film, Shanti Ride's Shotgun, 10 out of 10 on IMDb, so that's good. Another 8-minute runtime, which I think probably helps you in a short, right? I had a festival programmer from Proof, Amani Davis on, and she was like, "The runtimes kill me on shorts. People are sending like 23 minutes, whatever. I can't program that. Don't send me that." So I think the runtime actually helps you on shorts.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It's tough because in some ways, yes, absolutely. I think it helps. It's easier to program in a block. It's also a very lighthearted film. It's very fun. And so that's really, I think, helpful in a block of documentaries, especially if it's like a heavier, some heavy themes in the block. I've noticed our film tends to be put at the end after some heavier films to help lighten the mood before before the end of the block. So it's nice in that way to mix things up. And yeah, the runtime ensures that it's more likely people will watch it and program it, and that's all really good. But I've also heard like we premiered at South by Southwest, then we won at Palm Springs, which means we're Oscar qualified now. So
Awesome.
we're beginning our Oscar campaign for the film. And one thing that we've thought about and heard about is short can be good, but it can also mean that people feel the themes aren't fully explored and that maybe it stays a little more surface level. And I totally understand that argument, see that argument. I know Ben Proudfoot made The Last Repair Shop, which is incredible Oscar winning short film that's I think it's like 40 minutes. And people watched it because it was undeniably incredible. And he got to explore things a lot more deeply, introduce you to more characters. So like I have a lot of respect for the long short if you can pull it off. It's almost like if you
Yeah.
can pull off a long short that keeps people's attention, that's almost more impressive. But if you can make a short that also makes people feel something and
Yeah.
make people feel invested in a short amount of time, that's also impressive. So they're both impressive. They both have value. I hope people feel that Shanti is they got to know her enough. But I have heard a lot that people wish there was more, and we are working on developing the
So
short into a series. I hope that we get to do that because I would love to show.
so So, Charles, you may have made a feature that people considered too short
Yeah.
and made
Yes.
and made a short
Short. That people wish
that
were
people
longer.
consider too short.
Yeah, yeah. No, this is it. This is exactly it. Like I'm constantly fucking up at figuring out what I could do better. I'm figuring it out. Yeah, figuring it out a lot. Yeah.
So, that's funny. So, Shanty Ride Shotgun is a story of a most iconic driving instructor preparing students, and it's crazy, right? So, was it fun filming? Like, it answered the question for me how people learn to drive in New York City because I tell people it's like graduate school driving. Like, whenever I drive there, I'm like, "How do you even learn to do" there's, like, bicyclists coming at you other ways, like, pedestrians, like, I would not wanna be a new driver, like, being like, "Well, I'm cruising around Manhattan." Was the filming process for this really cool?
It was super fun. Yeah, it was fun. It was also very stressful, like, for obvious reason, but I think we made it hard on ourselves because we did a 4-camera shoot. So
Wow.
we rigged 1 camera on the hood of the car, and then 2 on the interior of the car, and then 1 on a follow car. And shout out to Peter Pascucci, who's the DP who figured out how to make that all happen, where every angle we could shoot simultaneously and not see the other cameras and still make it relatively safe for the student
Yeah.
drivers to drive these cars for real with the cameras mounted on them. Also, shout out to Shanti, who was just, like, totally on board with this dangerous camera setup. She was like, "Oh, they'll figure it out. They'll get used to it." And meanwhile, the camera's, like, blocking half their view while they're learning to drive on the highway in New
In New
York.
York City.
So, it was stressful for that reason and because we had a crew that was amazing, but definitely very small for how complex the shoot was.
Yeah.
So, we were trying to make a lot work that would usually require a lot more support. One AC for 4 cameras. That's crazy. Figuring out autofocus instead of having focus pullers and then things going awry and having to pull over and have Shanti on speakerphone, find safe spots to pull over, but then it starts raining. And then we got to tent the cameras with the trash bag because we don't have proper rain gear and just filters falling off the cameras because 'cause we're taping them up, like, it's just it was hard to do something so ambitious with such a small budget and with a really small crew, so the crew was incredible for even willing to take on this wild idea, and I'm, like, still blown away that it pieced together somehow, but it was just, like, so fu I only filmed for 3 days or 2.5
Yeah.
days, and Shanti was just, like, a gold mine of, like, incredible moments and funny lines and one-liners, and I really wanna to film more with her, there's a lot more there. So I hope we get to do that maybe with a proper budget and crew, so it's not quite as, scary and stressful, but it was also super fun. Yeah.
It's a fun film. So what does the Oscar campaign look like? Is it something you're running through your companies? Have you done something like that before? What does that look like?
It's our first Oscar campaign. We will be working with a PR team that is
Okay,
gonna be helping get the film out to the world and get
that's
press
awesome.
around it and help it get in front of voters. And we're obviously, as a company, pushing it as hard as we can on social
Yeah.
and in every way that we can think of to get it in front of the eyes of the voters in the world. And if nothing else, we just hope it brings some more attention to Shanti and the film because we would love to, again, just develop it into a series and keep going with it. So we're working on that in conjunction. But yeah, we'll see where it goes. It's our first time going
Yeah.
for it, and it's a learning experience. And I'm honored to even be qualified in the pool of qualified films. So I'm thrilled about that in the first place. Yeah.
So your companies, Voyager and Leap Year, can you talk about what they do? And is this something that will help you along the way? Do you work on like narrative and documentary films? And do you envision like being like a production company in some ways of being able to shepherd other projects through
Definitely.
campaigns like this? And yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and we have. We've worked on a lot
Okay.
of other short documentaries, narrative films, feature documentaries, narrative features. Andrew produced a narrative feature that's on Hulu called God's Time, incredible, premiered at Tribeca. And we're working on another short, narrative short right now that's just starting its festival run called A Broken Man, directed by Grayson Whitehurst. Yeah, we're constantly trying to support other independent film projects alongside doing commercials. That's our bread and
Okay.
butter. That's what we do as a company. We're a commercial production company.
Got it.
So we have a roster of directors that all do different things, have different styles, things that they specialize in. We represent them exclusively and we work with our reps to bring them work through agencies or direct to client. And yeah, we do a lot of like 30s and 60s, traditional broadcast stuff, but then also branded content, longer form branded content. I've done doc series that are branded. I just finished a film 2 year and a half ago that I co-directed with Fritz Bitsui called Through the Storm, which was funded by Nike, broadcast on the NFL Network, and then got nominated for a Sports
Oh,
Emmy.
cool.
So that was like a brand commissioned film, but not exactly like a, we weren't tied down by needing to promote a specific product or anything. It just aligned with a mission and ethos that Nike was believed in. So that was a really cool experience. And we want to do more of that. We're working on doing more of that. We actually just worked on a project with Indeed where we broke a world record by bringing the most directors onto one narrative short film ever. So we had
Oh,
30
cool.
directors at an activation at Tribeca where we had a film
Wow.
set. People could sign up to direct a scene of a short film that had been written by an alumni of Indeed's, oh, what is it called? Oh my God. Rising Voices
Right.
program. An alumni of that program wrote a
That's
script
so
that was
cool.
directed by 30 directors, and we were the production company and post production company on that project. And that is now heading into its festival life. And so that's another cool, like, brand integrated project. And we love to find ways to make unique ways to make indie film tie into the commercial realm that we do a lot of work in. And then Lead Beer, yeah, is our post production company that
Okay.
often works with Voyager. We have a roster of editors, including my wife that I mentioned earlier, but we have 5 editors that we work with on our roster, and we do a lot of commercials, independent films. We work with Voyager a lot, but we also work with other production companies. And so we share an office in Brooklyn and have our edit suite there and our team there. So yeah,
Charles, that's incredible, and I'm sure that kid shooting basketball trick shots when you worked with Nike was just like, "Holy shit, this."
yeah.
So when a director comes to you with either a feature, documentary project, what are you looking for? Are you looking at socials? Obviously, hopefully, you're not, like, judging them on film school or anything like that, like, I feel like you probably have an open mind towards their background, but what are you looking for a director when you decide to take on a project?
Just a really strong point of view, a unique vision, and just somebody that is making something really interesting. I don't think I almost never look at, yeah, their education or their background in that way. I think I just look at their
Yeah,
past, maybe I'll look at their past work, or if they don't have a ton of past work, I'll maybe see if they have a sample of what they're working on, or I'll see if they have a treatment that outlines what they're going for. And honestly, this is not talked about a lot, but I think it's so important for independent filmmakers to learn how to communicate via email really well. Like, I get a lot of, like, template emails that are so clearly template emails. Like, even, like, the formatting, I can tell, like, my name is, like, capitalized, and then the rest of the email is, like, lowercase, and I'm like, "Oh, you just copy and pasted this email to every production company in New York City and just
oh
replaced my
my god.
name." And, like, that really, I know this is, like, petty, and maybe I shouldn't be on my soapbox
It's
about
not.
this,
No,
but it actually, I think I'm not the only one that feels this way, I think. It actually matters, like, how you communicate to people via email, how you communicate on the phone, you're, like, being personable, and this is truly a skill that's 90% of what I do in the commercial realm, is
right.
90% of it is being able to talk to a team and communicate your vision and be able to interface and receive feedback and respond to it
Yeah,
well, like, being able to interface with people is so important in this industry, whether it's commercials, independent films, you're pitching to a studio, a financier, you're looking for
right.
investments in your projects. This is a critical skill of communicating your vision via email, in person, being really succinct, knowing how to sell your hook. Like,
Right.
these things have a lot of value, and it sounds stupid, but it's
It's not.
important.
No.
And so it's not even that, like, I can look past it. Like, I've sent my fair share of horrible emails that were
Yeah,
shitty, and people gave me a chance anyway. So, like, I can look past it if someone writes me a kind of shitty email. But I know that not everybody might be as lenient as I am on this, and it does get on my nerves a little bit when I can tell it's a template. So that's a small note to say, if I receive an email that is clearly, like, really personable and, like, real, and someone telling me, like, why it's important to them, or why it is that they're making this film, or why they reached out to us specifically, or why they think that this film would be a good fit for our team or what we're doing or what we believe in or something that they've seen we've done in the past. Like all these things, like when you can communicate why you're doing what you're doing and why we'd be a good team, it makes me believe in it and believe in your vision more and makes me more interested to say, oh, maybe this person's right. Maybe we would be a good team. Let's hear what they have to say.
Exactly.
And so that's of value to me. But more than anything, what's of value to me is that you're making something that makes me feel something and makes me inspired or interested or intrigued or uncovers something I haven't seen or it feels personal. Those are all important qualities. Yeah.
Or the Chat GPT pitches. I see a bunch of
Oh
those, like, you can
God.
tell they just
That's the
wrote those in
worst.
Chat GPT.
That's the worst. That's an ultimate, like, email delete. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you feel like AI will be coming for some of your business, especially like post-production or any even commercial work? You read about this brand created a 2-minute AI video, and right now it looks like shit, but maybe in 5 years it won't look like shit. Do you worry about that?
Yeah, I think I went through a period of panic about it, and I might still slightly be in that stage, but I'm always comforted by my business partner, Andrew, and he's very anti-AI, I would say,
Well,
at least in terms of art. Like, making art should not be something that AI is responsible for. I forget who said it, but it's like AI shows us what art without soul looks like. That
right.
is what it does. You can feel that when AI tries to just steal from other artists and replicate something without soul. So I really hope that it never replaces the very human act of making art. Personally, I'm not opposed to it replacing like tedious like things like taxes. Like sure,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I'm okay with that as long as it doesn't I have concerns about its toll on the environment. So, like, that would be an exchange I'm not okay with, but if there was a sustainable way for AI to take over tasks that are, like, very tedious and can help me with things that I don't find super meaningful, maybe I can get on board with that. I don't wanna say I'm just, like, fully anti-AI, but when
Right,
it
of
comes to
course.
making art and taking jobs from creative people, that really sucks, and that I see happening for people in this field for sure, like people in animation, VFX, voiceover, writers. There are definitely things happening with AI that are scary, and I really hope that there's some path forward that doesn't mean people losing their jobs, but I think it's feels like so in my on my worst days, it feels inevitable. On my best days, I feel a lot of hope for people. Like when I see comment sections on things on Instagram, like ads made by AI, I see comment sections and I'm like, hell yeah, people are like really shitting on this. I'm like, okay, that gives me a little hope. People don't want this. Like people maybe don't want to go to the movies if they know that humans weren't really involved in it. I hope that's the future. That's the one I'm really, yeah, I'm hoping for. But I think I'm glad, like, I can't see a path where documentaries specifically will be
Right.
fully replaced by AI, and that brings me joy. I love documentaries. I love documentary filmmakers. I hope that it doesn't find a way to take over the documentary world, and I hope it doesn't find a way to take over any careers in film. But yeah, I don't know. I'm a little panicked about it sometimes. Yeah.
Completely justified. So, the businesses are split between Portland and New York City, and I think you're the first director I've talked to who had connections with Portland. I love Portland, been a couple times. How is that for indie filmmakers? Would you recommend, like, if somebody wanted to film in the Pacific Northwest, would you recommend Portland as a city that you should make an indie film in?
Yeah, Portland is an int I love living here, I love my life here. There is a really great, small but mighty film scene here. I think a lot I think a lot of industry came this way when Portlandia was shooting, and then a lot of
Right.
people that worked on that show stayed, and so a lot like, we try to bring a lot of commercials here, and a lot of the crew that's here work on a lot of movies and TV and are excited to have a commercial come through town. So there is a scene here, and then there's a lot of indie doc people here, small like doc filmmakers here. that are really great, but I'd say for the most of us, we all started in a major film market, started our
Somewhere
careers in
else.
a major film market, worked on developing our careers a little bit, and then came to Portland because maybe we realized we travel a lot for this job, or a lot of our
Right.
pre-production meetings are on Zoom anyway, or where you start isn't that like where your base isn't as important as long as you're willing to travel. We have one of the best airports ever here, and I'm 12 minutes away from the airport. So for me, I am on Zoom a lot, and that stinks. And I don't get to be in the office as much as I want to be in New York. So a lot of our teams in New York, but it also means my wife and I have a house, and
Yeah,
we're building our family. Like it's a really great place to build a family, and so I don't know. It's a tough place to say if you're just trying to start your film career. Come to Portland. I'm not sure I would recommend that, but if you spend a couple years cutting your teeth in a major film market and you get some momentum, it can be a really amazing place to continue your career. That's my honest take. But there's also like Leicas here, so if you're into stop motion film, like maybe it's a great place for stop motion. I don't know. I'm not as tapped into that world. But yeah, I love living here. I love continuing my career here. I'm not sure I would have had a lot of luck starting it here. Yeah.
and a lot of love for the Pacific time zone. It just makes it easier to do, like, Zooms and stuff. The East Coast is done by 2 PM. All the sporting events are on at 5 PM. I feel like the Pacific time zone is the best time zone.
It is a good time zone. Can't deny that. Yeah.
So, Charles, like we talked about, and I'm so excited to talk with you about, you're working on a documentary called Fatherhood. How is that? How did that come about, and where do you see that going in the next few years?
Yeah, I obviously, as I was preparing to be a first-time dad, I was thinking a lot about what it means to be a dad, how maybe there aren't a lot. I don't know if I've seen a lot of documentaries about especially about the first few hours of life as a dad, like the first few days
Yeah,
even as life as a new dad, and I felt as I was gearing up for the birth of our first child, which was only 2 months ago, 2 and change, I heard a lot about those first 24, 48 hours of life.
right.
People were like, "Oh, it's fucking crazy, but it's magical and majestic and hard," and, like, all these things. It was everything all in one. And I was just so fascinated about that specific time period. I'm fascinated about being a dad in general, and I have a lot to learn, a lifetime to learn about being a dad. But what felt like particularly interesting was the anticipation of this one very specific moment in time of like your first
Yeah,
night home. And that was originally what the film was called, First Night Home. And that was the original
okay.
concept, was that I would do 24 hours straight with one couple the first night that
Ooh,
they had a baby. And it was really hard to find someone willing to allow us to film during that time, totally
yeah,
understandably. I'm not sure I
right.
would be open to it if someone asked me, and it took many months, but we did end up finding an amazing couple that was, like, really on board with it and saw the value in having that time captured and preserved, and so we did make that film that I was originally planning to do, where it was, like, we didn't do exactly 24 hours, but we were there the moments that the baby was born. It was an at-home
That's
birth,
incredible.
and we were there for the hours after the baby was born, and then we were there the next morning. So we made that film, but in the process of making it, this we shot it 2 weeks before my daughter was born.
Wow, Charles.
Yeah, it was like a really intense time period. Like I was processing and anticipating and getting prepared for the birth of our child, and then I was experiencing someone else's birth and having a little bit of a peek behind the curtain of what this is gonna be like, just like 2 weeks before I was about to experience it, which ended up actually be very therapeutic and comforting, like, seeing that they were okay and seeing what they were going through and that everything, like, was hard but manageable, like, they got through it
Right.
with a smile, and that gave me some comfort. But that's how it came about, and then once I started editing it, I realized more and more I just kept gravitating toward the father, and his name's Chan, and what he was experiencing and his relationship to his parents and the healing that takes place in the process of becoming a dad and some of the things you experienced as a kid, like how does that carry over into to when you have a kid?
Wow.
What does that bring up? And so those themes are things that have been deeply on my mind, obviously, as I'm experiencing this in real time. And I'm literally editing the film like with my daughter in a carrier on
That's
me,
so
like, thinking
cool.
about it. It's very, like, happening to me as I'm editing it.
Yeah.
So, the film ended up becoming about fatherhood because it's just so tied to what I'm experiencing, and I'm getting closer and closer to unlocking what the film is. We're not totally done with it, but we're really close,
Oh,
and my dream is to expand this into a feature where I would document this period of time with 5 different families across America, and I hope that we get to expand it and do that, but I'm focused for now on just this short, seeing where it takes us, starting a festival run and seeing where we can go with it, but we'll see. I have no idea. Every time I finish a film like this, I'm always like, "Is anyone gonna care about this? Is this
right.
just something that matters to me? Is this too specific? Will this have will this" I don't know. I
Yeah.
honestly, every time I finish, I'm like, "I have no idea if people will like this or not." So it's always an
How
interesting thing to discover.
how is that dynamic different? So, obviously, you've been successful with brand work, and like we talked about, that's communication. So, the brands you communicate with the brands, you provide what they want. How is it so different in the wider audience than it is with brand work? So, obviously, you can communicate with brands, get the job done, but, like, the uncertainty that you have when sending to a general audience, why do you think it's different?
I think I'm just a lot more vulnerable and a lot more
Okay.
sensitive, and I'm guess I hadn't really realized this until the cinematographer I work with, Jeff Melanson, pointed it out just casually, like, he was telling someone
Right.
about the types of films I make, and he was like, "Yeah,
Right.
Charles tends to make films about things that he's going through in that moment." And I'm like, "Huh." Like, I guess that is true, that is true, and this is the most literal example of that. I'm becoming a
Right.
father and making a film about fatherhood. And so, there's something that's very vulnerable about it, 'cause it's so a part of me, it's, like, something that I feel really deeply, and it's scary to open that up to the world, to look at something that you care about, and for them to either say, "This is weird," or "This is not," or for someone to say, "Oh, this kinda isn't that interesting to me." It's just it hurts on a personal level. Whereas if I'm working with a brand, I am always bringing a part of myself to it, of course.
Right.
But one thing I realized years ago is that it's important to acknowledge when you're doing something with a brand that ultimately it's for them. This is not your opportunity to make for most of the time, 90% of the time, it's you have
Mm,
to have the mentality of I'm bringing and injecting a piece of myself into this work, but I do need to acknowledge that this is something with a goal that is their goal, and I'm helping them achieve that goal. And
yeah.
so there is a 1 degree of separation from the work in that regard, with a few exceptions, like Through the Storm, the film we made with Nike, like, they were pretty this happens to already align with our mission, what you're expressing, go ahead and make it, don't worry, like,
Yeah.
it was a unique
That sounds
opportunity. So that was a rare exception, but a lot of times there is a metric that you're trying to hit for a brand, and so there is a part of you that can detach. Not that I don't wanna say detach because am very connected to that work, but
I get that, yeah.
it's not you're not burying your soul in the same way as I'm gonna make a film that is what I feel about fatherhood. It's someone else's opinion about fatherhood, but I happen to be so deeply aligned with how Chan expresses his experience of fatherhood, and so when I put this into the world, like, it's vulnerable for him, it's vulnerable for me, I feel a responsibility to his story, like, I want to make sure that he feels heard and seen, and I wanna make sure that people see the value in his story and what we both feel, and so, there's a lot of stakes involved in that, and there's a lot of emotion tied to it, and I feel scared, like, scared that people are gonna judge me or not like it, and then it's gonna invalidate my feelings. There's a lot there that's personal and hard to process. So I think that's why I feel a lot more uncertainty and less confidence in it. And this happens literally every time I make a film. Every single time. There's never a film where I finish it, I'm like, people are gonna love this. This is awesome.
That's amazing insight into that. Indie film podcast, Charles, love hyping other people's projects. Is there a film or filmmaker out there that you wish more people knew about?
I feel Sam Davis is a filmmaker that I think a lot of people know about him, but I just want as many people to know about him as possible. He's an incredible filmmaker. He's so humble, but he's been nominated for Oscars and stuff, and he shot the film Dee Dee with Sean Wang, and he has a new film, The Singers, which is on the festival circuit right now, which is a narrative film. He's just an incredibly versatile filmmaker. Like he does narrative work, he shoots people's films, he directs. He's working on this incredible, I can't I don't think I can say too much about it, but long-term
Okay.
project that he's shooting all on film. It's beautiful. And he does all this, but he's so, I don't know, like every time I hype him up to people, if he's there, he's like embarrassed and he's like, Charles, shut up. I'm
Right.
like, dude, you're like one of the best filmmakers in the world. Like, I love his work. So he's incredible. Another filmmaker that I'm just like obsessed with, but again, she know everybody, a lot of people know her, but her name's Kirsten Johnson. She did Camera Person. She did Dick Johnson is Dead. And she was a cinematographer similar to Sam Davis for she is a cinematographer for 30 plus years. She's worked on 60 features, but she started directing. She directed her first doc, Camera Person, not that long ago after having been a DP for 30 years. And then her new film, Dick Johnson is Dead, which is on Netflix, is her second film that she directed. And it's like one of my favorite docs of all time. It's
It's
so
amazing. Yeah, it's so much
magical.
fun.
It's so fun. And it's like an incredible use to me of doing surreal stuff in the doc space where it's not disingenuous. It's not like you're misleading people. You're like showing them your hand, and that gives
Right.
you a lot of freedom to try out crazy weird shit. And I love that for docs. I love someone pushing the envelope of what people think of or conceive as a doc. So yeah, those are like two of my like hero filmmakers right now in the doc world. But I'm sure I'm gonna hang up and think of a million people that I wish I
But
would.
no, that's fantastic, and I love that from people who are thinking about other people in the space. Like, I do think there are people, unfortunately, who have their blinders on and thinking, "I'm gonna make it." I'm not really thinking about anyone else, and filmmaking other outside of I unique to filmmaking is the fact that it's a team-oriented art. Like, you can't think of, like most writing you're doing individually, painting, all the other arts you can think of are individual, but filmmaking at its best is done with a team, so you have to be thinking about other people and trying to promote other people in this hard life of independent filmmaking, so it's really cool that you're already thinking about that as people that you've, been inspired by, enjoy their work, and wanna help support.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I'm constantly trying to keep tabs on interesting new voices and new filmmakers. Yeah, we're always trying to support new interesting things, so that's part of my job to stay in tune with that. Yeah.
This has been incredible. Filmmaker Charles Frank, we probably have kids to wake up and feed.
Yes.
This has been really incredible. Thank you for your art, and thank you sincerely for making a space for people to feel like they can concentrate on things other than filmmaking, because I think that's so important to do, and I really am cheering for your success. I'll be cheering for you, hopefully, to get that Oscar when the campaign goes well, and you can come back on and chat about the series, the feature film of Fatherhood.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Thanks so much, and this has been awesome. This has been great.